It's time for the Daily Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest have undertaken an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and directors and film festivals and this really long list of stuff that I know nothing about, but they gave it to me and they really wanted me to read through it. And that's all I can really say about it, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast, your weekly podcast for all things movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly, editor-in-chief of dailyplanetfilms.com, and I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-editor Matt Freeman. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Scott, I'm thrilled to be discussing the Oscars with you today.
Yes, the Academy Awards, the 88th Annual Academy Awards. I don't actually
Probably
know if that's accurate. I think it is. Yeah, it's Oscars week. This Sunday, the 28th, is the Academy Awards, where a bunch of rich and famous people get together and celebrate being rich and famous.
Yeah. I see why it's so popular.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we're gonna talk all about the Oscars, what we think of the whole awards thing in general. Maybe touch on some of the controversies related to it this year, and then talk about the big categories and who we think's gonna win. But first, Matt, who is with us today?
I believe we have our special guest, Mr. James Gentry, once again.
Oh, so special. Hey, guys.
So special.
Glad to be back. Looking forward to discussing, the Best Kiss category. It's going to be a good time.
Gentry, that's not in these awards. You're
Oh,
confused.
shoot. Oh, this isn't the People's Choice Awards?
No. Oh, no. You're not prepared.
No, yeah. Thanks for having me back, guys, as always. It's always good to hang out for a little bit and talk about movies and other fun things.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Before we move into the Oscars, though, we do have some quick movie-related news. The first item on our list is Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yep. Wouldn't be a Daily Planet podcast without ragging on this movie.
Yeah,
So
it's true. It's true. So, Matt, how do you feel about a movie a month before its release telling you that the version you're going to see in theaters is not the version that the director wanted?
yeah, let me tell you, that makes me real excited to go pay like $15 or whatever tickets cost these days to watch a movie that is not the correct version.
Well, then I have do I have a movie for you?
Oh boy.
Because Batman vs. Superman is going to have an R-rated director's cut that will be out on Blu-ray once the movie is out of theaters.
Scott, why would they make a decision like this?
It's almost as if a movie came out not too long ago that was rated R, and they want to draw attention to the fact that there's rated R versions of comic book movies.
That's a little
is
bit
that
cynical,
really what
Scott.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
That's-
know. I don't know if we're speculating. I think the reason they made the announcement when they did is absolutely because of that. Because, like we were saying, it's ridiculous to make an announcement like that when you're trying to get people into the theater to see your movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
So they're
I bet they would.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I bet they would change this movie to a rated R movie if they could, but they probably can't.
Yeah. Because we all know that both Batman and Superman super rated R.
Yeah, right. That's my favorite part of the old Superman movies was when Superman punches a hole in Gene Hackman's chest. And like it's like right through his spine, and the blood just like sprays everywhere.
And you see his heart kind of fly out into the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how Superman should solve all of his problems.
Totally. I can't wait. So yeah, this is more and more reasons why I just am not looking forward to this movie at all.
It honestly sounds kind of. I mean, it sounds like it's a mess at this point. I had no idea that announcement was coming out. And is it really? I mean, honestly, is it just so that they let people know about the director's cut? Really, or is there is the main is he actually having is there actually a big issue with this version?
I really don't think there's an issue at all. I think.
Okay.
And I don't even understand. Like,
they're just trying to sneak in the whole. Hey, guess what?
Did they shoot like a lot of violence, and then we're told that like. I mean, they knew they were making a PG-13 movie from the beginning, right? Like,
no, I don't think they shot any violence. I think they're going to just throw blood like from 300 all over everything.
I think you're right.
All over scenes that already happened, where like now Superman's going to punch people, and or probably the Batman scenes where Batman's going to clothesline somebody, and they're going to like CG like the head coming off or something. Absolutely. Because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
I'm gonna laugh when it's just Bruce Wayne says "fuck" more than two times, and that's why it got rated R, and that's all the director's cut is.
Yeah. I mean, it's very obviously just like, oh my god, Deadpool made $500 million just because, in their mind, just because it was rated R,
yep.
Which is obviously ridiculous, but
yeah,
they don't understand anything. So,
yep. I think actually, there's this rated R resurgence happening now. I think we set our sights too small last week when we said it was going to just be comic book movies rated R. I think you're going to see this rated R comedy resurgence thing happen, where all these movies are going to be very like declaring themselves rated R, and being proud of it.
Like the new Ghostbusters, or
no,
are you saying
just I mean, Ghostbusters is definitely going to be PG-13, but
right.
I just think we're going to start seeing more and more movies that like are saying, "Look, we're rated R."
Yeah.
Like, I think that
stick it more in our face because it's the cool thing to do in 2016.
Like they just announced they're remaking the Stephen King book It into 2 different movies, and they just dropped this big announcement this past week that both movies are going to be rated R, which like duh, like there's no way that movie could not be rated R.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that the next Harry Potter movie is rated R.
Yeah, me too. We really need to see violent, and probably sex scenes too. I think.
I mean,
killing curses everywhere.
I mean, the internet definitely does want to see Harry Potter sex scenes. So I wish we were kidding about that.
There's whole sections of the internet I just don't want to go to.
Instead of like the golden gun, it's just the killing curse wand. Everything is just the killing curse.
All right. Let's move on. So, Matt, Gentry, what'd you guys think of Pacific Rim? Did you guys see it?
Yeah, too many times. In fact, no, it was like the ultimate background noise movie. When my roommate was living here at my house, I liked it. I mean, it's a fun movie. Very. I don't know if I'd say, well, okay, for the action category or like as a genre, I think it's a fantastic action movie actually. And yeah, I guess it's been a little while since I've seen it at this point, but yeah, I don't know. Why did you? Oh, I'm assuming an announcement is coming for a sequel.
Matt, what did you think of it?
I somehow haven't seen this, even though I've wanted to see it literally since it came out. But
okay, well, they're making a second one. That's
good.
That's the enough.
Yes.
So the reason this is news is because Pacific Rim came out, didn't do very great here, did great in China. Like overseas, made a pretty good amount of money, enough to make its money back. So there were all these rumors that there was going to be a sequel and like maybe a television show, cartoon, anime thing. A few months ago, all that got thrown out, and they took the movie. I think the studio took the movie off their slate. Guillermo del Toro backed out and said he's not going to be doing it, so it looked dead. But there was an announcement, I think yesterday, that the movie is not dead. It's happening, but del Toro is not involved with it. I think he's producing.
Oh, Lord.
Jacob DeKnight is the name of the guy directing the movie, and he directed Spartacus, the Stars television show.
Yeah.
With
Stars or Showtime?
With Stars, I think.
Yeah.
So I really liked that movie a lot, and I wanted more. And I think I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it not being Del Toro's work. And I like that Spartacus show is pretty stupid. So, but I think they've got good writers on it, so I'm kind of excited. I don't know. More giant robots fighting giant monsters is not bad.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Cool.
In other sequel news, we're getting a Blade Runner 2 in 2018. Matt.
I hope this falls apart.
It's not going to.
How?
We don't need this. This is not needed.
Wait, is Harrison Ford part of this project?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, man. I don't know about that.
And Ryan Gosling's in it too.
And Ridley Scott?
He's not directing it, but he is involved.
But because, I think Ridley Scott just can't stand that nobody got that he thinks Deckard is supposed to be like a replicant. So this has like been festering in him for 20 years or whatever, 30 years, I don't even know. And he just has to make this sequel just so that it's clear to everyone that Deckard is a replicant.
Matt, I'm starting a new segment of the podcast. It's called Bash Ridley Scott Corner.
Yeah.
And once a week we're gonna skin a bash Ridley Scott.
Okay.
This is a terrible idea, and Blade Runner is overrated. I don't think it's a very good movie.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, like it's borrowing a lot from better science fiction books. Like everyone gives you credit for being super visionary, and it's definitely visionary in terms of its visuals, but it's I mean, first of all, it's an adaptation of a book, and then it's borrowing a lot of its imagery from things like Neuromancer. So
it's pretty.
Definitely pretty.
Like, I felt nothing while I was watching it.
Yeah.
So that's the way I feel during most Ridley Scott movies. So
I mean, if he really intended Deckard to be a replicant and no one got that, then then he really failed to communicate what was supposed to be like the heart of the story, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I think the whole it being open-ended was actually good storytelling, but we're just gonna fuck that up and probably there's probably gonna be like 6 Harrison Fords in this movie, and they'll all be old and robots still somehow. I don't know.
I have to correct myself. Apparently, Neuromancer came out after Blade Runner, so I can't claim that he was stealing things from Neuromancer.
Now that I think about it, I think that was one of the movies that we were able to tackle when we started AFI's list of top 100 best movies of all time. So the fact that it's on AFI's top 100, I guess, obviously, that's your opinion, but does that tell you anything else? Or
I mean, what is the American Film Institute?
Right.
I don't know. I think
that was the only time I've ever seen it, actually. Though,
a lot of those films on there are put on there for not just quality of the film, but like cultural impact, and I agree. Like, it was technically a good movie, but
sure.
So I don't think I'm interested in this.
I've really only seen it the once. I need to see it again.
Next week on the Ridley Scott Sucks Corner, Gladiator, bad movie.
Hey, I love Gladiator still.
Bad movie.
It won an Oscar.
It did.
As we're going to discuss today, a lot of bad movies win
and now
Oscars.
I'm taking it out because I'm embarrassed.
No, I have an affection for Blade Runner. I mean, not Blade Runner, Gladiator. Actually, I like Blade Runner too. I just like it provisionally.
I really do love. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all both like Alien, right?
Yeah.
Still a big fan of Gladiator, but yeah, let's move on.
Matt, you had a news item too that I'll let you present because you know it better.
Yeah, this is from our political correspondent, me. So I learned today. So I saw this. So to tell this in narrative form, I saw this weirdly like not funny pro Hillary Clinton article on The Onion. And if you know The Onion, you know that first of all they're never pro any politician, and second of all they're almost never not funny. So I thought this was weird, but I just kind of forgot about it. And later in the day, I find out that the top donor to Hillary Clinton's campaign has like a month ago, bought a 40% stake in whatever entity controls The Onion. And then I went back to The Onion and realized that not only did they have this basically puff piece for Hillary Clinton, but they have all these what are really sort of nasty, not funny hit pieces on Cruz, on Ted Cruz. I have no extremely strong feelings about either of these people, so I'm saying this as a neutral observer that I'm pretty heartbroken that The Onion has been like ruined as a semi-objective source of just like humor. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I think you mentioned this to me, and I went and looked it up, and you're absolutely right. There's anything that's a Hillary Clinton piece is about how funny it is that she's great, and people don't seem to think she's as great as she is. And anything for any of the other candidates is not funny hit pieces. And like if it was funny, I wouldn't care.
Right.
But I mean, it does seem very, very targeted.
Yeah, it's just disheartening.
Like I have it open right here, and this is Ted Cruz in a Reno area fetish club. Which, okay, that one's kind of funny, but the Hillary Clinton one is female presidential candidate who was United States Senator and Secretary of State told to be more inspiring.
Yeah,
and it's like, I mean, I know what they're doing. The satires around how like people are rallying to Bernie over her, but like it's just so transparent. It's disappointing.
Yeah. I don't know. I never thought of The Onion as having a political slant. Like I thought that they just were like pretty much anything that was there to be made fun of, they would make fun of. But now it's pretty overt.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that.
That's depressing. But let's talk about other things.
Yeah, let's talk about the Oscars, which are pure and good.
The Oscars, which have no controversy surrounding them at all. So, I like the Oscars. I think they're fun. I think they do serve an important purpose, but I also think they're silly, and like I think we shouldn't use them as like an actual like deciding factor of what the best movies are or are not. But I like participating in it. I like the talk around it. I like how it kind of wraps up a year. What do you guys think about the Oscars in general? Matt, you go first.
I mean, I think it's always fun to watch, and be reminded of the movies that you watched, and then also to get sort of almost an ad for movies that you didn't see, and you know you'll see like, oh, you know, I didn't have time to see half of these movies, but you know that little clip there was really compelling, and then, oh, okay, that guy won Best Actor for that. Yeah, I kind of want to see that now because I want to see the performance that won that award. You know, so I almost do treat it as sort of like a extremely expensive version of Rotten Tomatoes, where instead of all the critics in the world, it's some small number of people in Hollywood who are voting on what the best movie was to sort of tell you to go see it, which is really ultimately, I think, why these awards are coveted. It's like it basically turns directly into money for the actors and the people making the movies.
Yeah. That's actually a really good thought. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, it's more, more traditional, I guess. I kind of grew up watching it, with my parents. Not so much my siblings, but mostly my mom and dad. And it's more of just like an event. And I've just always been a big fan of like the atmosphere of the whole thing and being able to see what all the what all the actors and actresses kind of look at now basically on that day, how they're all doing at that current moment. But yeah, I mean, it's also definitely a window into a lot of the movies that I unfortunately don't get to see before they come out. And if anything, it's more motivation to be able to kind of experience, not only just the best Oscar nods or writer, director, but also some of the best foreign film stuff that I don't really ever get to hear about. But yeah, I mean, overall, I definitely enjoy it, and it's always fun. It's hard to take super seriously in terms of whether or not your movie gets chosen or not, or wins the award or not. And obviously everybody has their favorites, and I think more, if anything, it just kind of drives the conversation a bit further in terms of analyzing or comparing some of these movies. But
yeah, I think the interesting thing to me is that it's both silly and important at the same time.
yeah,
I mean, we spent a lot of time pouring through previous winners in preparation for this podcast, and we noticed that the movie that wins Best Picture is very rarely the most important or even best movie of that year.
Yeah,
and there's always going to be a certain type of movie that, regardless of how good it is not going to even be nominated. So it's silly in that effect. But Matt, I think you made a really good point with that. It's important because when you see Academy Award winner next to someone's name on a trailer, you're more interested.
Yeah.
That's just just a truism. Like that's
yeah,
it comes with a certain level of respect and accomplishment that furthers everyone who is involved career.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, just to follow on that point, in looking through the historical winners, I noticed that The King's Speech won Best Picture over Black Swan, Inception, The Social Network, and Toy Story 3. And I would argue that any of those other 4 movies probably have more staying power, in the sense that you still think of them fondly and would watch them again, relative to The King's Speech. And it's just interesting and not entirely meaningful whether a movie wins or not. But
yeah, I mean, there's a certain type of film that, I mean, they call it Oscar bait, but there's a certain type of film that just does really well historically in the Oscars. Dramas about white dudes that have historical reference to it usually do very well.
Yeah,
right.
And that's The King's Speech was one of those. But yeah, I mean, that's just that. It's so, I mean, they're silly in that regard, and one of the things, I was reading an article today that pointed out that the silliness of, we have these arbitrary different awards, like the best animated film award. You have a bunch of kids comedies and then a very serious drama in there. Anomalisa, which is a great movie, kind of thrown in this category, and it's not going to win because everyone that votes looks at this as the kids movie category, but it's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, right. I mean, not to go on a whole tangent, but the whole idea of saying this was the best art is a little shaky. I mean,
Yeah.
like you, best in what way, right? Like, and that's why they have, like, okay, categories like best sound or whatever, I think at least make some sense, because you can be, you can be fairly objective about how hard it was to do, how effective it was, etc., and actually maybe find a best sound, and you can maybe find a best acting in some regards, but maybe not always. But then when it comes to best picture, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Well, it's weird too, because the original idea for a best picture was a movie that had the best acting, the best directing, the best editing, the best sound, had all those things. And then you find movies that make it on the best picture list but aren't nominated for any of those other things. So it's like, didn't have the best sound, not the best directed movie, but it was really good. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
All that being said, though, I mean, there's just something, they're fun. Like, it's fun to put in your guesses, and it's fun to it's fun to see a movie that really impacts you and that you really love, like I did with Mad Max. And it's fun to see that get nominated and be awarded by other people. Like, it's fun to kind of just feel vindicated in your opinion sometime. And then on the flip side, it's incredibly frustrating when a movie you didn't like at all and don't understand why people like does so well. Birdman.
Yeah. Well, on that note, since we're talking about movies that Scott has opinions about, should we move into talking about the actual awards? Now, I haven't seen I've seen probably 20% of these movies. I've only really seen the ones that came out early in the year and then were released on Netflix or whatever. Um, so so I'm going to walk you, Scott, through the categories
Okay.
and give you a chance to talk about you too, of course, Gentry.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and
I think it's cool because I think this is the first year, maybe ever, that I've seen, I think, just about, if not every single nominated movie.
mhm.
I didn't see some of the foreign films, and I didn't see the documentary shorts, but that's about it.
Well,
so I've got opinions, and I've got viewings to back up those opinions.
And it'll be very interesting to see how well tapped into the pulse of the Academy you are. So let's start with the category Best Supporting Actress. What's your overall take on the slate this year?
So I think of the big five, which we'll call the acting awards and the Best Picture, this is the one that's probably the tightest race. That is kind of the most up in the air. I think this is one where I can make a prediction and it equally right and wrong. There's a lot of really talented actresses here, and then there's some I don't really understand. I don't understand why Kate Winslet got the nomination for this, because although I did like the Steve Jobs movie, I thought her performance in it was really uneven and weird. Like, she randomly developed an accent halfway through, and it was never addressed at all. If I had to guess, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I think they're going to vote for, and then what I would vote for. I think Alicia Vikander is going to win for The Danish Girl. I guess should I read all the nominees in case people don't have them sitting in front of them like I do?
If you want, yeah, sure.
So the nominees are Jennifer Jason Leigh for The Hateful Eight, Rooney Mara for Carol, Rachel McAdams for Spotlight, Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl, and Kate Winslet for Steve Jobs. So, like I said, I think Alicia Vikander is going to pick it up for The Danish Girl. I think it also could be Kate Winslet, is what I'm hearing, and then Rooney Mara could be in there too. Jennifer Jason Leigh could as well. I think the only one that's probably definitely not going to win is Rachel McAdams, and what she'll end up winning. But I just feel like Alicia Vikander had a really good year, and she's one of those young, just emerging stars that they kind of love to vote for, to kind of show them to the world. And I just feel like it was a movie that didn't get a lot of other nominations, so this is their one real shot to honor the movie. And you know, I think this is actually one of the only movies I did not see, but from what I hear, she's very good in it. Sorry, go ahead.
Who would you vote for then?
If it were my pick, I'd say Jennifer Jason Leigh in The Hateful Eight. I thought that performance was incredible. Really
I agree with that.
Complicated, layered, really affecting. Like, especially in a movie that's surrounded by so many talented actors as that movie was, the fact that she owned basically every scene she was in was great.
Yeah,
and she definitely deserves it.
Okay.
But also, I really liked Rooney Mara and Carol, so I think I'd be happy. I'd be happy with just about anyone winning this except for Kate Winslet. Even though I really like her, I just didn't like her performance here.
So yeah, this does sound really tight this year.
Yep.
Oh. All right. Well, how about you, Gentry? Did you see any and or all of these movies? And do you have an opinion?
Not really. I only saw Hateful Eight out of these five. But you know, obviously, Scott pretty much nailed it. You know, she was fantastic, and every moment that she was even a part of, she pretty much stole it. And it made me, you know, it almost made me think about my, you know, some of the movies I saw in my childhood that she was in. You know, I was like, oh my, you know, it's just nice to see her still kicking ass so many years later, and she still looks great. You know, besides the fact that she looks a big mess, but she, you know, I don't even know how old she is, but she still looks, you know, the way I remember her when I was younger. And yeah, no, it was just it was a fantastic performance. So.
Cool.
And before we move on, I just want to mention that she was actually in another movie this year. She was in Anomalisa, and she was incredible in that too. Absolutely incredible.
Cool.
Amazing.
God, you guys need to see that movie. Seriously.
Yeah, I just had to look up who Jennifer Jason Leigh is because I don't have a strong like, oh yeah, she's in blank.
Yeah, because she hasn't done anything in so long, and then heck of a year for her.
I know.
Thanks, Quentin Tarantino,
seriously.
once again.
Yeah, seriously. Best. He's just going to be known for his casting.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Best Supporting Actor. I'll just go through the nominees. Actually, I won't because I don't know what movies they were in. But Scott, what's your take on Best Supporting Actor? Is there a better Is it a clearer win this time?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is one of the ones where the Academy and me are going to be on the same page. So the nominees here are Christian Bale for The Big Short, Tom Hardy for The Revenant, Mark Ruffalo for Spotlight, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, and Sylvester Stallone for Creed. And I think the winner is going to be, and I want the winner to be, Sylvester Stallone in Creed.
Okay.
I've talked to you guys about how much I love Creed many times, and I think not only was his performance in this movie really good, and the movie as a whole really good, but I think the Academy is kind of in love with Sylvester Stallone right now, and this is kind of his thank you for existing award.
Okay.
He's never won an acting award. He was nominated for Rocky but didn't win it. So I think they're going to honor him here.
So I've heard that Tom Hardy was just amazing in The Revenant and stole all the scenes from Leo. Do you think there's any chance he could steal the award from Sly?
No, I agree. I think Tom Hardy in The Revenant was great. I think I'm glad he got nominated here because I was worried that he wouldn't. I don't think there's any real chance that he'll win this one, though. I think his performance is kind of small in the movie, and it's a little bit of a darker performance than some of these other nominees. I think the one closest to beating Sylvester Stallone could be Mark Rylance from Bridge of Spies. That wasn't a perfect movie, but that guy actually had a great performance. He played the Russian spy.
Yeah, that was good.
He was great. Not only was he great, he worked he fed off Tom Hanks so well. I think the second half of that movie has pacing problems when it's kind of slow, but every scene the two of them are in together was just great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be completely shocked if he won, but I think it's pretty safe to say that Sylvester Stallone is going to get this one.
Okay. How about you, Gentry? Did you have an opinion on these?
No, not really. I mean, Christian Bale's the only one I really got to see. But I guess listening to the BS report, he does mention Mark Rylance as well in Bridge of Spies as being kind of like a dark horse. I mean, Stallone's going to win it, right? Let's be honest. But if anybody were to kind of come out of nowhere to win it, that apparently he did a great job. And I know you saw it as well, Matt. So what'd you think of his performance in that?
I mean, I definitely think. I agree with Scott that the kind of the best moments in the film were actually the interaction between him and Tom Hanks, to the extent that I think the movie would have been completely arid without that relationship, because there's not much compelling in it, actually, in my opinion. The thing is, it's a very understated performance, and I feel like the acting awards usually go to more overt acting, acting you can see, as people say.
Yeah.
Whereas this was a very his character is extremely reserved and intentionally not emotive. I mean, his emotions are very subtle
right.
while he's having them. So I am going to predict that he does not win.
Yeah.
But
I think there's usually an Oscar speech moment, right? Mark Ruffalo, the reason he's nominated is because he has this great monologue in the middle of Spotlight that's like an Oscar speech moment. He's the only one from that ensemble cast that was nominated, the only male at least. And it's because he's the one that gives that speech. So I think you're right. Sly does kind of have a speech moment in Creed. And, I mean, like, he won the Golden Globe, and it's like, everyone there was just like, oh my god, we're so happy for you, we love you, Sylvester Stallone. So I think it's gonna happen.
Did y'all,
and I'm glad.
did y'all like the big speech moment in Spotlight? Because I did read, this one review that kind of said that it didn't really fit with the rest of the movie, and it was kind of like, it was almost like put in there on purpose just because of the way the Oscars are judged. Like, do y'all?
I don't know.
Did it bother you, or was it just good regardless?
I think it fits with the character. I mean, in the scene, I loved that movie. That was a great movie. And I liked everything about it. So I think I don't see that. I mean, I don't think the speech was written to be an Oscar speech. I think it just fit the energy of the scene.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love Mark Ruffalo. He's great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him as an actor.
The only one in this list whose performance I really didn't like was Christian Bale's in The Big Short, which is a movie I liked. I don't know what he was trying to do with this character, and I just don't think it worked.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the next category, Best Actress. This looks interesting. I don't think I've seen any of these movies either, probably.
Yeah, I got 0 on this one.
So I'm like 1 for 15 so far. But Scott, go ahead and educate us.
All right. So this is, I think, the biggest, for sure, lock in the Oscars this year. We've got a lot of great performances, but one just seems to be standing out more than the others as far as favorability in the Hollywood community. So the nominees are Cate Blanchett for Carol, Brie Larson for Room, Jennifer Lawrence for Joy, Charlotte Rampling for 45 Years, and Saoirse Ronan for Brooklyn. And the winner is going to be Brie Larson for Room, and that is also who I would pick again. Brie Larson is an actress I've been following for a while. I remember, I think 21 Jump Street was maybe the first movie I saw her in. She plays the love interest in that movie, and I don't know, there was just something about her, like her performance in that movie, even though it's a small kind of funny part. She just like radiates this energy and star power, and she was really good. So I've kind of been watching her since then, and she was in a movie a couple years ago called Short Term 12 that was incredible and really showcased her acting talent, and it's all kind of led to this. So she definitely deserves this award. Room was a great movie. Her performance in it was incredible. I mean, half the movie is her and this kid trapped in a room, and all she has is him to work off of in her acting, and it's a great film. She does a great job.
Cool.
The other performances in here, the only one I didn't see Joy because I don't really care about David O. Russell, but I don't know why Jennifer Lawrence was nominated here other than the fact that, it's Jennifer Lawrence.
Right.
Everything I've read, she's a 28-year-old young, beautiful woman playing a middle-aged housewife who's like been broken down and destroyed by life, and it's terrible casting. I don't understand why, but
yeah, I mean,
that does not seem good.
From like clips that I've seen kind of randomly, it just looks like there's a lot of moments where she's just like acting like really kind of big emotions.
Yeah.
So maybe they just felt like giving her a nod for that.
Well, and they love her. Like the Academy loves Jennifer Lawrence. And she's not a bad actress. I don't know. I'm sick of her David O. Russell team up Oscar bait stuff. I'm really tired of it. That's why I didn't even bother to see this one. I'm just like,
I'm wondering if this will be the last one for a while, because it seems like people are just, not that they're getting like annoyed, but it's just kind of like it's running its course, or who knows.
Yeah, just cast her in roles that fit for her, and give a middle-aged actress a chance to play a role for their age, because there aren't that many of them. It's really frustrating, but
That's not possible, Scott. You know that middle-aged actresses can only be cast as witches.
Well, like even in American Hustle, she plays a little bit older of
Yeah,
a
she
role,
looks
I
way
feel
too
like.
young in that movie
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
The only one it works in, I thought, of the David O. Russell movies was, I just blanked on the name.
Silver Linings?
There you go, Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah.
But even then, she looked a little young to be a widow. But I mean, I don't
Right.
know. But the other
It does.
performances, Saoirse Ronan was really good too in Brooklyn. That's just a good movie, like from beginning to end. It's nice, it's enjoyable. Like it's nothing huge. Like her performance wasn't really big and bombastic. It was just really solid.
Okay.
Carol was really good. Cate Blanchett did a great job there. If it wasn't for Brie Larson, I think Kate might pick up the Oscar. But
Okay.
And Charlotte Rampling made a comment about how she thought that there were no minorities that were good enough to be nominated for awards this year. So she's definitely not going to win.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So,
And Gentry, you said you didn't see these movies.
No, I didn't get to see any of these.
Okay.
guys, you need to see
Do you have
Room.
any?
Make it a priority to see Room.
Okay. It just sounds so intense.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Oh, Charlotte Rampling. Oh no. I was just looking her up.
All right. What's next?
Okay. All right. Next, Best Actor. Starring Bryan Cranston. No, sorry. He's my favorite human being, so I have to say his name whenever possible.
Bryan Cranston's great. He is great. This category is interesting because two things are going to happen. Leo's going to win, or he's going to get the biggest snub of his career, probably. And the next movie, he's going to kill himself because he's trying so hard to win a damn Oscar. So our nominees here are Bryan Cranston for Trumbo, Matt Damon for The Martian, Leo for Revenant, Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, and Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl. And I think it's Leo's time. I think he's going to win this.
Seems like it.
I don't want him to. I don't think his performance was particularly good here. I don't think he's really acting. And when he is acting, it's just a lot of grunts and noises. I don't understand the love for this movie, and I don't understand the love for this performance. But regardless, I think he is going to win it. Sadly.
You know, I've seen The Martian, so.
Do you think Matt Damon deserves the Oscar, Matt?
I don't particularly. I mean, he just sort of does his Matt Damon like charisma thing.
Yeah,
I mean, if anything, I hate to rag on the movie because I enjoyed it, but like, and this was sort of a critique that I had of the book also, but like, he didn't really convey a lot of like terror at the fact that he was, going to die imminently. So could have done better.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I think he's nominated because he had to carry so much of the movie by himself, and they wanted to give him a nod for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the person who is going to challenge Leo the most, I'm hearing Bryan Cranston, which is weird because nobody saw Trumbo.
Yeah, but
I
it's
saw
about
it.
Hollywood.
It's a movie about Hollywood. It's a movie about the blacklist in the 50s, so there's that. It's got that going for it. I mean, Bryan Cranston's great. Everybody loves him. I think his performance in this movie was a little uneven. He's trying hard to be both silly in some parts and super serious and dramatic in others, and I don't know, maybe that's more of a critique of the movie as a whole than his particular performance. It was a good movie. If I guess I have to pick who I would want, because I would not want Leo. Out of these people, given that I haven't seen The Danish Girl, I'd probably pick Fassbender for Steve Jobs. That's a movie that didn't do very well financially, didn't really get a lot of buzz, but was actually really good. Fassbender doesn't look anything like Steve Jobs, but he's not trying to. But he kind of embodies like how he talks and his mannerisms, and I mean he gets Sorkin dialogue, so he gets to say a lot of really great stuff. But it's a really good performance, so that's probably who I would pick.
Okay.
Gentry.
Nope. Yeah, same boat as Matt. Pretty much. I only saw The Martian.
You didn't see Steve Jobs? What have you been doing?
Not seen enough Oscar-nominated movies, apparently.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I really wanted to, but I mean, just like what you said, there was no buzz or anything, and it's like it kind of hit the theaters and left kind of even before. I mean, I almost kind of missed it. I don't know. Maybe I was thinking of other movies. The fall was jam packed with so many other big movies. I just didn't really think about it. But no, I mean, a big Fassbender fan, and I hear he does a great job in it. Matt Damon was great in The Martian, and I think exactly like what he's got going for him is just the fact that he does have to work with nothing but the camera. But I agree. I guess I didn't really think about it. There wasn't a whole lot of scary, almost going crazy type moments. Even some small parts that you get in the book. But can only say so much. So.
Yep. All right.
Getting down toward the end here, best directing is our next category, and I've seen I think a couple of these. Scott, take it away.
Yeah, I'm not excited about this because I know who's gonna win, and once again, I don't want to. So the nominees here are Adam McKay for The Big Short, George Miller for Mad Max Fury Road, Alejandro Inarritu for The Revenant, Lenny Abramson for Room, and Tom McCarthy for Spotlight. So, Inarritu's going to win again. That's depressing.
Yeah.
Especially in a category that has George Miller, who directed the shit out of it. Especially in a year that had a new Quentin Tarantino movie that was criminally not nominated, and Creed, which didn't get nominated for directing, and Ryan Coogler directs the absolute shit out of that movie, and I'm sad. I am sad.
Yeah. The George Miller, this is like a Da Vinci masterpiece of directing. I don't know how any director could be said to do a better job than him on this movie. So
yeah, there's so much going on. Things are happening so fast, and it's always clear. Like I think that's when I explain Mad Max to people. That's what the thing I always end up saying is that like things are happening at 500 miles per hour, and yet you always have a very clear image of what's going on, and that's all because of the directing.
Yep.
Yeah, just every aspect of everything comes together.
Yeah.
There's just no moment. I don't know. There's so many action movies where you notice, you kind of see the seams. You see like you cut from this angle to this angle, and it's very clear that these are two different shots because the actor is like in a different position, and the hands are in a different position. Yeah, I mean, just like that's just one example out of like a billion that I could rattle off that you see all the time. And this movie I've seen a few times now, and I've seen zero things like that caught my attention as being like, oh, this is a movie. It's all like, oh, this is really happening, and he's flying around with a magical camera somehow, because that's what my brain believes.
Yeah. So obviously, if I haven't made it clear, my pick for this one would be George Miller.
Yeah.
Mad Max is an incredible accomplishment. The other nominees in this category did really good too. I think Tom McCarthy gets a bad rap for the fact that Spotlight is not bombastically directed. It's very simply but powerfully and effectively directed. The Spotlight is a movie about the corruption within the Catholic Church and the child abuse scandal. And McCarthy does this really great thing where the movie moves around the city of Boston a lot, and anytime someone's walking around Boston, there's always like a church in the background, always, to kind of show how powerful the Catholic Church is and how it like looms over every aspect of the city.
Wow.
And I just thought that's a great touch. And it's
sure.
Like I think he deserves more credit for that movie that he's getting. Adam McKay for The Big Short. see, there's some editing problems in that film, I think, but I don't know. It's just like it was really clever in how it did stuff. So
Yeah, I like the angles that they took with kind of the three different stories going on at once. I thought they tied in well, considering. I mean, I know we talked about it, last week. Um, but I'm just kind of curious. Like, there seems to be so much debate and conflict with the Revenant. Everything that I listen to, or the people that I talk to, that I know personally, or the podcasts that I listen to, or things that I read, seem to have issues with Revenant. But then everything that I hear mainstream wise and in terms of the awards seems to be pro Revenant, and I'm just like really wanting to see this now to see what the big fight is about. But
yeah, well, I think the disconnect is between the critics and people in the industry. I mean, I think when you're working in the industry, when you're a director and you see what he did as far as going out in the middle of the wilderness and freezing to death to film your movie, you have respect for how difficult it was to make the movie. But me, I don't care how difficult it was to make your movie.
I can take my laptop out into the forest and
right. Well, I was gonna say, like, that's sure, it's like a feat in itself for anything, right? But that doesn't necessarily make it an awesome directing job,
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to have to say more about this movie with our next category, spoilers. Yes. So why don't we move on to that one?
Best Picture, the category which we already discussed, is meaningless.
It is absolutely meaningless.
And
except there are a couple really great movies in here that I wish would win. But they're not gonna. So the nominees here are The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight. And I'm just going to pretend Creed is at the bottom. Maybe I'll just add that in myself here real quick. No. So here's the thing. I think the Oscars have only split the Best Director and Best Picture awards like 5 times, maybe. It's very rare that the winner of Best Director doesn't win Best Picture. And Inarritu already won the Directors Guild Best Picture or Best Director award, which almost always agrees with the Oscars. So The Revenant is most likely going to win Best Picture. The two films that are going to give it its closest run are Spotlight and The Big Short, but The Revenant's gonna end up winning, I think, unfortunately. Because that's a really bad movie, guys. It's really bad. My opinion of it has only worsened.
Yeah, I've never even encountered another person who liked it. Like, it's kind of like Gentry just said. Like, you hear through the internet that it's like well loved by Hollywood, but every person who I know in real life who's seen it was like, "Oh, what an overrated piece of trash." So I'm like, I really want to see this weird artifact that has managed to everyone dislikes it, and for some reason everyone living in a small city in California thinks it's amazing, or a large city.
The crazy thing is, cinematically it's beautiful. It's gonna win for cinematography, and it should. I would vote for cinematography. It's beautifully shot, but it's just not. It's just the construction. I just don't care. 45 minutes into the movie, I don't care anymore. And the storyline isn't engaging. I don't think Leo's doing a great job. It's boring. It's boring.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, I thought Bridge of Spies had some boring parts, and The Revenant is way more boring.
Wow. That's harsh.
I mean, it's literally it's a 2.5 hour movie, and 2 hours of it is Leo crawling through snow and horse guts and and it's just
Can we talk about Bridge of Spies? Because I don't know why this is on this list.
I mean, I think maybe just the Spielberg effect.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like come on, people! Like you need to. The best way to make Spielberg better is to let Spielberg know when he's falling short of his potential, and I think this is probably one of those places.
Yeah.
Did anyone feel anything watching this movie?
No. I I mean, the beginning I did. Like, I really liked the stuff between Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance. I really liked the stuff with Hanks, like trying to defend him in court and saying, "We have to do this. I have to defend him because our Constitution says he gets a defense." I like that stuff. And then everything from like once he got to Germany, like it's really just him talking in rooms, and it's interesting, like the way it's shot, but it's not that interesting of a story. Like it's not a story that you can really dramatize very well. And it's like, it's not that I need action in my movies. Like, I loved Lincoln, Spielberg's last film, which didn't really have a lot of action in it, but was so much more engaging on a narrative level than this movie.
Yeah, I think there was probably one moment that actually felt something, and that was probably when he was talking to the CIA guy fairly early in the movie, and the guy was like, he was saying, he was like, come on, you know, like, you're not really gonna go out on a limb to protect this guy who's obviously a Russian spy. And Tom Hanks kind of gives a speech about how like the only thing that makes Americans is the rule book, which he sort of implicitly means the Constitution. And if we're going to just like do what's expedient, then we're not really Americans, and there's no point to any of this anyway. But it, you know, said a lot more poetically, and I was like, wow, you got me there.
And the thing about that too is, I think that speech works better in the trailer than it did in the actual movie, because I remember that speech is played as part of the trailer, and I was like, oh wow, this movie's like gonna be super timely and like make people think about, like, we have to show that we're better than these people by doing the right thing and being the right people, and how fitting and timely that is. And that's just not how it was. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And it's like, I love Spielberg. He's my favorite director. I think he's the best living director right now. Like, he was born to make movies. And yeah, I mean,
what do you think was his draw to make this particular movie if it wasn't that?
I think he was alive when this happened, and he remembers the news story, and he was really interested in it.
Okay.
So I don't know. Well, and he's at a point in his career where he can do whatever he wants and get it made. So if he feels like he wants to make something, he can do it, and Tom Hanks will say yes because Tom Hanks loves him.
Yeah, right. I guess it's that victim of his own success thing that we've talked about before on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, like even a minor Spielberg movie, I still think is better than most things. It's better than The Revenant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like a personal project, or just something you remembered, or not necessarily fondly, but just like, oh, now I have the tools to actually bring this to the screen.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about this movie I noticed when I was, when the end credits came up, actually, was that it was the Coen brothers either wrote it or helped write it.
Yeah, they wrote the screenplay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that no one talks about with this movie.
Yeah, because it didn't, like, it sort of felt like a Coen brothers movie, but then again, it sort of didn't. Like,
that's interesting.
Definitely didn't have their like irony and their tongue-in-cheekness about things, because Spielberg was directing it, they weren't directing it, so that wasn't going to get conveyed through. It did kind of have, I don't know, elements of how they structure things.
Yeah, I think the only thing that felt Coen-y to me was Mark Rylance's character. I think he felt like a Coen brothers character to me.
Yeah, I agree actually with sort of the repeated refrain that he would say.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. But The Revenant's gonna win.
Yeah. Any dissenting opinions, Gentry?
No, I mean, I only saw obviously a couple of the movies on this, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to say without seeing The Revenant and Room and Spotlight, which is one that I really wanted to see. I mean, I guess my vote would be for Mad Max, but
yeah, I think out of all these, Mad Max is going to be the film that is most remembered 10, 15 years from now.
Would that have been your vote for Best Picture out of this list?
Yep.
Yeah.
I will be perfectly happy if Spotlight wins, but if it were up to me, it would be Mad Max.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I enjoyed this Big Short more than a lot of other people, but maybe it's just because it was a combination of the approach, the style, and also kind of the content. was just kind of fascinating to me.
It was
and I
really
don't know.
good.
I mean, I the acting, jobs I thought were, pretty good and different. I mean, I don't know, like, I know you weren't a huge fan of Christian Bale, but I don't know, something about his, um, he was just so awkward and just different, and but you can almost like, I felt like maybe he was trying to like make like the genius kind of shine without saying much because he stutters so much. Maybe it's like, I guess I kind of like recognize that he was trying to do that. And I don't know, maybe I thought that he pulled it off a little bit better than some others. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to compare. I mean, I thought they were all kind of interesting characters. I mean, the only one that was really not so different in that movie was Ryan Gosling. I feel like I'd seen that type of character in other movies. But what Carell and I mean, now Brad Pitt was just kind of there, a little quiet, but mostly Christian Bale and Carell, the way they kind of what they brought, the energy that they brought kind of to the movie itself, I thought was some of the parts that I remember more. Even though we didn't get a ton of movement from Christian Bale's scenes, obviously he's pretty stationary the whole time. I feel like a lot of what he said and a lot of what he didn't say, but kind of like the look, the way his mannerisms are and his facial expressions said a lot about the time and what was about to happen and what people didn't know, and what he felt like, his colleagues should have known. So I don't know. Maybe I just thought he communicated it better, but it's hard to compare if I haven't seen a lot of these. So.
Red Letter Media pointed out that Carell is just doing a Michael Scott character, and now I can't unsee that.
Oh, damn it! Oh god, definitely gonna check that out. Love this guy.
Okay, so that's this year's Oscars. I think what I wanted to close on this week, instead of doing recommendations, I just wanted to go through our top. Supposed to be top 5, but some of us didn't pick 5. Our top whatever, your top favorite of the Academy Award Best Picture winning films, because I think we've talked about how this award doesn't really matter as far as the legacy of films, but there's a lot of really great movies that have won Best Picture, and I think there's an equal amount of movies that shouldn't have won. Crash is a really bad movie that shouldn't have won Best Picture. But so let's go through. Let's start with you, Gentry. Your top whatever, and just go one at a time and say a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I kind of picked movies, not necessarily. It's hard to like kind of judge between so many amazing movies that have won. So I kind of went with some of my personal favorites, or maybe some of them that really stick out. Not only because they're my favorites, but just because I've seen them so many times that.
Yeah, and let's preface this with the fact that none of us have seen every single one of these movies.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Not even me.
I don't know about that. So yeah, my first one is my all-time favorite, and I guess I'm just a sucker.
No, you gotta count down.
What? Oh, okay.
Don't start with your number 1.
Okay, so all right. Well, I'll just do really quickly my third one. I had a really hard time picking between, between Gladiator and The Departed. And again, like these aren't like, neither of these movies. I don't even know if they'd be in my top 10. But they stick out as movies that I definitely enjoyed. So I ended up, kind of, because of my, my first pick, I stayed away from Gladiator, but I ended up with The Departed as the third one, and that's just a movie I feel like I can watch anytime it's on. I thought the cast was amazing, except, I mean, I don't know about Jack Nicholson's. I know a lot of people had a problem with his accent, but I thought the big thing that kind of nailed it for me was the script and kind of Leo's acting job in it. But also just kind of, I mean, everything coming together, and it's just a fun, scary, sad type of mob movie. It was probably the first time I had gotten a Boston type of take. And does it even happen in Boston?
Yeah.
It's in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I was to make sure it wasn't like Baltimore, but yeah, it was just like the first time I'd kind of got an idea of how the mob worked in that movie, and just thought Leo did a great job and kind of put himself in that position, or more like the character, the role that he plays, and kind of the route that Scorsese went with. Mixing in the stories, where you have these two unassuming characters go completely different directions, and how their fates are intertwined, but also kind of lead to some kind of well, not redemption, but almost kind of get what you're reap what you sow, basically. So that was my third one.
What's number two?
Number two was another movie that I don't know if people are huge fans of, but have a soft spot for it. It was American Beauty, 1999. This movie, I just, I wasn't even like, I didn't see it in theaters or anything. I mean, it was 1999. I was in 8th grade, basically going into high school. So, when I saw it, first when it came out on DVD, and pretty soon after. And I don't know, I maybe I just have a soft spot for Kevin Spacey's acting. I just thought his character was fantastic. Even in going as far as small details like his name, Lester. It's just kind of the whole theme of the movie. How just life has this really meaningless, off the surface things that are super obvious and tangible, and kind of getting into the greed of your typical American worker. But to me, the movie's obviously more about some of the small moments that occur as kind of fucked up as his life is. Well, I guess in retrospect, it's not super troublesome, but I guess when you're comparing it to the situations that he's around and his family's in, and how they're all kind of going in these different directions, you really do find these little moments of peace and small conversation and stuff that really kind of makes you appreciate these things about your life and your family. And I think that kind of resonates. And I'm just a big fan of the score. I like kind of the interactions between Ricky and Lester, as well as Ricky and I forget the daughter's name, but I know people make fun of the whole bag energy scene, but I kind of liked it because to me the way the music, I just thought maybe the way the directing was kind of resonated with me. So that's my second one.
American Beauty is an interesting one because I don't know if y'all agree with me on this, but this is a movie that came out before 9/11 happened, and it's very much a product of the 90s where everyone was so awesome and happy in America that our biggest fear was that we were going to feel unaccomplished in life.
Right.
And then 2 years later,
boom,
the entire world changed, and like when I go back and look at this movie now, as much as I agree with things you're saying, it's like, who gives a shit? Like, none of this matters.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's the thing. It's like and it's even watching the movie, you're thinking that, right? Especially now in retrospect, like seeing everything, you're like, who cares? But that's the whole point. That's what he brings to, that's what he shows in the movie is the people around him. He's basically saying, who gives a shit about all this? Why are you so crazy about your job? Daughter, why do you, relax, you're in high school, like, why do you feel like the world's against you, blah, blah, blah. And, all this, when he, the scene where he gets mad at Carolyn because she talks about the throw pillows or whatever, the early couch pillows, and he's just like, this isn't life, this is just stuff, and I think it's just like those little moments, that really kind of stuck with me. And even the small little conversations that he has, with Ricky when they're at the work party or whatever, and they're both just, hanging out, smoking a joint. And it's kind of like his first moment of, just kind of a relaxing, where he can just kind of talk to somebody and shoot the shit without having to worry about what he has or has not accomplished in his life or for his family.
Yeah. So, I guess I just don't really care about the existential crisis of an upper middle class white dude.
Right.
I think it can be useful to be reminded that prosperity is not a panacea. Like, it's tempting to think when we're in a more dire situation that like, oh, everything would be better if blank, and it's like, well, actually no, everything wouldn't be better if blank, probably.
Yeah.
Fun fact, that will also probably be the last time you will ever see underage boobs in a movie, because the girl who played Kevin Spacey's daughter was under 18.
No way.
Her parents gave permission for her to be topless in that movie.
Wow.
And that will probably never happen again.
And that's
feel bad about looking at her boobs.
I feel terrible. No, but I mean, and like, and I think Kevin Spacey helped lend a little bit of personality. Like, I don't know, he made it like fun and funny. There's moments where I'm like, where you're rooting for him, at the same time, because it's so shitty, everything that he's going through. But not that shitty. But like he kind of like makes you realize that while it's happening to him. So I don't know. Maybe I just thought he delivered on the role pretty well. So last movie, my favorite is Braveheart, 1995. God damn it. So this one, I mean, just from just growing up and, just always being a big fan of history. This movie is pretty simple. It was just from start to finish enjoyable in terms of, the way it was the way it was filmed and everything about it. I absolutely loved. From the, whatever, Mel Gibson being crazy this last decade or whatever, like, whatever. I just like kind of discount all that. And I think back to kind of his earlier days and stuff. And, I really, although he's playing this, Scottish, leader, it's just thought it was just so well done. It's probably my favorite score ever. And a huge fan of just kind of the way it basically moves in a pretty straight line, almost like the whole time you're waiting for it to kind of get, it's getting closer and closer to their goal of helping these people become free. And I thought every scene flowed into the next rather well, actually, almost to the point where it's a long movie, but I never really ever felt, aside from watching it on VHS, which it was 2 movies, of course. But, later on, it never really felt like a super long movie. And I just thought every scene kind of flowed well. I thought they did a great job with the cast, kind of subtle. I know a lot of people weren't really known at the time. A lot of these actors kind of showed up in other, historical and, fantasy fiction type movies. But, overall, really just one of those movies that has it all. And, it's got, betrayal and love. And, it's just a very tragic and, at the same time kind of redemptive story for, a people. And I don't know, I feel like it was in a simpler time when, those types of movies, they had a purpose. It's a biopic and it wasn't trying super hard. Huh?
It's not a biopic.
Well, okay, but it's not trying super hard, to get that across. Basically, I don't know.
It's so historically inaccurate.
I know, but
it's pretty fun though.
Huh?
But
it's pretty fun.
Yeah, no, it's a good movie. I'm not making fun of the movie.
Right. I mean, but what movie is historically accurate? I mean, like, obviously, Edward Longshanks wasn't that ridiculously crazy and mean.
Mad Max Fury Road is historically accurate. That's true. It's the future.
Fact.
All right. That was a good list, Gentry.
Yeah.
Matt, is yours going to be exactly the same?
No, actually, it's completely different.
All right. How many do you have? Do you have the 5 I requested?
No, well, I could come up with 5, but I've ranked 3.
You guys,
and they're totally different from Gentry's.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
So the number 3, and I should mention first that like I was trying to find the Venn diagram overlap between my favorite movies and Academy Award winners. So that's why this first movie is probably not like the best movie ever. But I really liked Amadeus. I just am totally delighted by that movie every time I see it. I think it may be a little long, but it's got a lot of really great moments, and it's a very different movie because the protagonist is evil, which is unusual, and and it's just a really weird, unusual movie, and it just really works. You guys like that movie?
Yeah, I like that one a lot. That's a good choice. I haven't seen it in forever, and I think I've only seen it once. But yeah, no, I enjoy it. I don't know what else to say about it.
I've actually never seen it. What's give me like a 2-sentence summary of what it's about.
It's about the life of Mozart. I mean, it's somewhat fictionalized because it's from the perspective, like the main character is Salieri, who in the movie, if not in reality, is a rival composer to Mozart.
Oh.
But in the movie, Salieri is like very duplicitous and pretends to be Mozart's best friend. But in reality, he's just seething with jealousy that Mozart is this incredible genius. And Salieri himself is just sort of like really good, but not like he says at some point, like his curse is if he's good enough to realize how amazing Mozart is, but he knows he can never actually reach it.
Wow.
And he basically just like tries to destroy Mozart while pretending to be his friend, and it's super.
God, it sounds fantastically entertaining and terrible. I mean, I'd always, of course, I always hear the name a lot, but I had never actually looked up a summary of what it was about. So
yeah, well, I recommend the crap out of it.
Very nice.
What's next, Matt?
Number 2, I'm gonna say Gladiator, which I believe I just like an hour ago said was overrated or something, but I thought about it since then, and this movie was like my number 1 favorite movie ever for a long time. And then I got older and like sort of started to see it as corny. But I decided I don't care that it's corny. And the thing is, like, I can, there are certain parts of it that may not have held up, but then there are certain parts of it that are still amazing. And regardless of whether it's corny, I still buy into those character arcs and everything. Like you just have to accept that it's fantasy, it's not historical, and then it's fine. And it's got all these great character moments and great acting from Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe, of course. So yeah, it's definitely still
Wait,
up
so
there.
Maximus wasn't real? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's probably
just piggybacking off my awesome Braveheart.
Yeah.
No, big fan of Gladiator, though. I mean, whatever. Like, it's fun. I mean, it is a fun movie, and it has its moments, I guess. Like, I don't know. I was trying to think of, like, how it made me feel, like, emotionally while I was seeing it. And I'm having a hard time remembering how I felt. Like, I remember being pretty frightened of Joaquin Phoenix's character. But that's also because I guess I kind of knew about the real Commodus, just learning about him in Latin class.
Man, now I seem like a real asshole from the beginning of this podcast where I made fun of this movie. Sorry, guys.
It's funny you and I apparently took Latin Gentry because maybe we just had it's funny, I don't remember now whether I liked this movie prior to watching, prior to choosing to learn Latin, and maybe this movie was why I wanted to learn Latin.
Yeah.
It's possible.
No, I mean, I was like, right. Okay, so the movie came out right before I started taking Latin. It was like kind of right smack in the middle, like when it had just come out on DVD that I was, I think second or third year. And yeah, I mean, I relate. I was the Roman history guy in my class, and I relate a lot to, obviously, everything that's shown in the movie, it's obviously fiction and everything, but, just the world that, if anything Ridley Scott does well, he does bring the world to life rather nicely. And as many, I'll always remember, unfortunately, how many mistakes were caught in this one, just like technical mistakes and all sorts of stuff that are pointed out. Like, who cares? Like, whatever. Yeah, I don't care. Like, maybe I'll notice them from now, but like even then, I'm still always probably going to enjoy it. And I think that obviously it's Russell Crowe's kind of big shiny moment, before Beautiful Mind and whatnot, and kind of got him on the scene. And overall, pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 1, Matt.
Number
I
1.
held my tongue because I don't want to.
Oh, by the way, still love that. Just really quickly, still love that battle. It's one of my favorite battle scenes is in the very beginning. I know it's super crazy and the editing's ridiculous and blah blah blah. But I just something about that battle just has such a real feel that it's disgusting. But yeah. Anyways, last movie.
Yeah, I agree. My favorite movie of all time, apparently, based on cross correlation, is Silence of the Lambs. I don't see how anyone could have any other movie be their favorite. Because this is clearly the best. I mean, this is such a good movie.
Fantastic movie, though.
It's so good.
One of my favorite Hopkins performances.
I don't even have anything else to say. It's a perfect movie.
I think that...
I mean, it's pretty damn close.
Do you know they originally wanted Michelle Pfeiffer for the Clarice role?
I may have heard that.
Thank God they did not go with that.
Yeah.
And they wanted Sean Connery for Hannibal first.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's one thing I do think about sometimes is like this movie just would have been a completely different movie without Anthony.
Yeah. This is a movie, one of the rare movies that got Best Actor, Best Actress, Director, and Movie Oscars.
Wow.
And the thing about it is that it's very unusual. Like there's so many parts where it's I don't know like actual filming terminology, but it's the actors looking directly into camera, and they'll switch between Hannibal looking directly into the camera and then Clarice looking directly into the camera, or other characters doing that, and it's very you almost never see that.
Yeah, because it's very disarming for that to happen to the audience, but it works so well here.
Yeah, and it makes you a bit vulnerable, like you're there and Hannibal's looking at you.
There's a video that YouTube channel I talked about a couple weeks ago, I think, that Every Frame of Painting one. There's a video called "Winning the Scene," and it's about Hannibal and Clarice's the first scene they meet, and like how they're each battling each other and how that's shown through the camera movements. And it's just brilliant directing. Like, it's so great. And those looking right into the camera is very intentional. When it's done and when it's not done is so well done to show you like who has the upper hand at the moment. And it's like all stuff that like your brain doesn't even really pick up on, or your brain picks up on it, but you don't even notice. Like, it's so good.
Wow.
Another thing to maybe keep in mind next time you see it, if you don't know, is that Anthony Hopkins is basically trying to channel like an alligator or some other kind of like predatory like reptile, which does sort of come across because he's just like completely empty.
That actually makes sense, just based off the way his character acts throughout the whole movie, and then finally, makes his move.
What a great film! What a great film!
Yeah.
Well, that's mine. How about you, Scott?
I picked 5 movies because that's what I told y'all to do.
Scott did his homework.
So that's why I have 5. And believe me, it was tough to get to 5. So even getting down to 3 would have been even more difficult. But my number 5 is Annie Hall, the Woody Allen movie from 1970-something. I think, first of all, this is my favorite Woody Allen movie, and I really like Woody Allen, and I'm the type of person who can successfully divorce the art from the artist, so Woody Allen is a weird dude. But he makes really good movies, and Annie Hall is really good. It's really funny, but also really emotional and dramatic. And, there's a thing, especially lately, that comedies just don't win the Academy Award anymore. They did back in the day, but this is probably the funniest, I think, Academy Award winner film. So I just felt like I needed to pick this and have it on there just to have a comedy represented in my list. But Annie Hall's great. If you guys haven't seen it, you really should. It's on Netflix.
Always wanted to, have not seen it, but Netflix got it.
All right.
Beat out Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yep. Number 4. I picked Silence of the Lambs as my number 4. So good job, Matt. We talked about that one already, so we'll move on. Number 3, I picked The Godfather, and I couldn't decide between 1 or 2, so I cheated and said both of them. The Godfather is incredible. just as a cinematic achievement and one of the best narratives I've ever watched on film. I love these movies so much. I even appreciate some of the third, even though it's not nearly as good. But I think if someone made me pick between The Godfather 1 and 2, I'd probably pick the second one, just because I think it is slightly better. But these movies, I can't. They're so good.
Only sequel to win an Oscar?
How come you guys didn't pick The Godfather? What's wrong with you?
I honestly didn't scroll that far down. No, I've only seen him a couple. I didn't feel like I had seen him enough.
I mean, if you want me to be honest, it just doesn't affect me that much. Like, I'm able to recognize it's a good movie. I don't. It doesn't affect me that much. I feel like I'm broken admitting this.
You're breaking my heart, Matt.
Yeah,
you're breaking my heart.
I
know it was you.
Yeah. Well, part of it may just be that, like, I know, like, oh, it's the best movie ever, and so I have these expectations.
Yeah.
But I don't care about I don't what's Al Pacino's character's name?
Michael.
Other than Michael, like I neither like nor care about him. So it's very hard for me to. It's a tragic
story. It's so tragic.
But the thing is, I don't like him from the beginning. Like, for it to affect me, I need to like him at the beginning, and then I need to see him fall. But I just don't care about him, and then he falls, and I'm like, oh, now he's bad, I guess.
Oh yeah, well, Maximus is stupid.
Okay.
Was this the only sequel to win an Oscar?
Probably. I can't think of what else.
It looks like it.
I can't think of what else there would be.
I honestly do not see anything else.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow.
There we go. Godfather. It's great.
Achievement.
Matt, I understand your opinion. I get it on a certain level, but I can't help but like these movies so much.
That's fine.
All right.
I like Gladiator.
My number 2 is Casablanca, because this movie is incredible. And I actually had forgotten that it won the Academy Award until I was looking through this list, and I was pleasantly surprised. Casablanca is the most romantic movie ever. It's got the best cast. It's just so well filmed. I just love everything about this movie.
Yep.
It's infinitely quotable. The ending is like one of the most classic endings in the history of cinema, and it's amazing that they weren't even sure on the ending while they were filming. The funniest thing about Casablanca, and I think anytime anyone talks about this movie, they mention this, but they had, like, no one working on the movie thought it was going to be any good. Nobody.
Wow.
Everyone thought it was terrible. They were doing constant rewrites. Like, they thought they had a mess on their hands and almost scrapped it. And it turned out great. It's Casablanca.
Very nice. Number 2, Scott.
Thank you. And my number 1, which will surprise no one, is Rocky. Because Rocky is the best movie ever.
Yep. Gonna guess that one.
I'm not. We did a whole podcast on Rocky, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. So you should go listen to that one and talk about why Rocky is the best movie of all time, ever. Well, that is my top 5. We only had 1 repeat in there, which is good.
Yeah.
I was worried about that.
Yeah.
Which means Silence of the Lamb is twice as good as any other movie.
I don't think that's how that works.
It's not additive.
Great choices, though, guys.
So do we think this year's winner is going to be on any of these lists?
No.
I think it is interesting that of all our picks, I think the most recent film was it Gladiator?
Departed.
Oh yeah, Departed.
Kind of a soft third, anyways, but yeah. So it pretty much, I would say Gladiator, really.
So are the Academy Awards just becoming less significant, or is it just take time before you realize?
I think they're already. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I didn't even realize, like if you ask me what my favorite movies are, full stop, I wouldn't. I don't think Silence of the Lambs would necessarily be in my top 5. It may be. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. But when you force me to only look at the top Oscar winners, then I'm going to pick that because, frankly, there's not a lot of overlap between the movies that I think are great and the movies that won the Academy Award. And I don't think the Academy is good at picking movies that have good staying power or even good, like, I don't know, just the type of thing that I'm looking for, frankly. So, yeah, I think it's probably just a pattern, actually, that the common man, like us, is not really going to agree with them most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think every decade there's probably going to be one film that wins that is a great film that has staying power and will be talked about.
Yeah. Well, there's also
for
a good
years to
chance
come.
that, like, you know, in a lot of these groups, you know, for every year, maybe more than 50%, we would almost say that a movie that didn't win, we'd almost prefer.
Oh yeah. I think the most famous one is Forrest Gump winning over Pulp Fiction.
Oh man,
freaking
yeah,
tragedy.
Also,
Forrest Gump's a bad movie. We should do a podcast about how bad of a movie Forrest Gump is because that movie is awful.
Now, see, I don't have a particularly strong opinion either way, but I am interested to hear why you think that.
Rewatch Forrest Gump for me, Matt.
Okay.
Think about it of the perspective of that the movie embraces rewarding the person who goes through life not knowing what the hell's going on and constantly punishes the strong, powerful woman who tries to do whatever she can to lead an independent, strong, and purposeful life.
Well, I don't know if she's strong and purposeful. I mean, she's basically becomes a druggie.
Yeah, because the movie can't let her win. The movie refuses to let her win.
And then she's like, sort of winning.
Forrest is like, Forrest has so little personality that he just takes other people's dreams. Oh, yeah, right. I'm just gonna be a fisherman now. Fuck Forrest Gump. I hate that movie.
You're being a little harsh.
No, I'm not.
I mean, you have a very good point in that a person that, you know, but I mean, you know, he's also, you know, a little slow, mentally slow. Like, he has no choice, you know?
This is a delightfully nihilistic reading.
I don't think I'm being nihilistic. What I'm saying is that it shouldn't. Okay, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole.
We'll save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Also, no one. Well, I mean, I guess it might have been too easy, but I was a little surprised no one mentioned Lord of the Rings. But I don't know. Return of the King wasn't even my favorite. Fellowship was.
Right.
Maybe
I think
Gentry,
we even talked about how.
Maybe Gentry, if you were caught up on
on
our podcast,
of course
you would know about our feelings of on the Lord of the
Not
Rings.
even caught up on our own podcast. Damn it!
Busted on air.
Totally busted. Whatever. Okay. So yeah.
All right, we're getting way over. So
whatever. It's the Oscar Megapod.
It's the Megapod now.
Yeah.
That's got to be the name now.
That's what you said earlier today. You're like, Gentry, Megapod tonight.
Megapod.
Nice. Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed this conversation. I think we touched on a lot of different things. I still like the Oscars as silly as they are. I'm gonna be watching excited on Sunday, even though I think my picks are pretty accurate. I'm pretty confident this year.
We should have like a rollback, you know, kind of like maybe like 6 or 9 months, you know, from now, you know, kind of go back because I think maybe at that point we'll have seen a lot more of these movies. I know I will at least, so I think it'd be fun to talk about them again.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, maybe not the old ones. I'm saying like the ones for this year.
Oh yeah.
The ones that me and Matt have hardly touched, but yeah.
Yeah. So I've given you guys like my picks for the big movies, but I'm publishing. If you're listening to this, it'll be Friday, and I should have published my picks for every single category, not just the big 5 or 6. Which I'm very confident in everything but like 1 or 2 of them. So look for that on the website. Next week, Matt, it's time to finish the book club.
All right.
Are you excited?
I am actually.
I am too. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to re-listen to our first podcast and refresh my memory on how many things we got right and wrong, because I think there were a lot on both sides.
Yeah.
So,
but that's going to be good because I love the book club, and this was a very, very, very interesting book.
Yeah. Gentry, did you read it?
Nope.
Bad.
Did not. Yep.
I was setting you up there. Yeah. So next week we are going to finish our discussion on Fates and Furies, and I just came up with a new idea as we're speaking right now, Matt. I think each of the three of us should bring a book to that recording that we want to cover next, and we will talk on the podcast about which one we're going to pick.
Okay.
So I just came up with that right now. So
I'll find something.
All right. So that is it for us this week. Gentry, Twitter, go.
Yeah. Wench tweet at Wench tweet. Otherwise, yeah, just Daily Planet Films. Good stuff.
Matt.
At Ward Email. And using Metro.
I am at Scott Daly 85. It's DALY. Like they said, www.dailyplanetfilms.com is where you will find everything. If you could like, favorite, subscribe, share, do everything with this podcast and everything else we write and publish, that would be awesome. Thank you for all of your help. Gentry, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks as always, guys. Always a great time. So,
yeah. And we will see you next week.
Podcast is over. It's done. We hope you all had some fun. Go back to your work or your school. Maybe the gym. Hey, that's cool. Regardless, just go away. But please come back next Friday. There'll be a brand new podcast.